I'm super excited to be here today. My name is Sweta Regmi, and I'm tuning in from Canada. Tell us where you're tuning in from, because it's all about Canadian people today, all about layoffs. Can't wait to share all those things that we've gone through personally together, right?
Amazing, amazing. I just want to acknowledge that we didn't plan our outfits, but we're totally matching today. I
This is our
love it.
brand color. This is our brand color. So I love this
It's our
color.
brand color, right? The blue. And I really want to take a moment to acknowledge you because I know that you've been a great supporter of my live stream shows. I always see you. And whenever I makes posts, I love you commenting as well. So I just want to express that gratitude to you and just thank you for supporting a fellow Canadian here.
Thank you so much, Emily. You do such an amazing job, right? So why would I not be showing up for you?
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to kick things off with a personal story. I want to talk about our why first. Why do you do what you do?
Okay, well, that's a great question. You know what? I do it because I've been in their shoes. I've been laid off in the past and I know what it feels like. And the lesson that I walked away from it is, hey, you know what? They took my title, not my brain and skills. And here I am today, seeing the both side of the world from the hiring world, because I used to be a hiring manager. And then, you know what? I got laid off and I became a job seeker. So that's when I realized I think there's a gap and I can teach people how do you navigate and how do you bounce back. And this is why I do what I do.
Oh, I love that. I love that. There's this personal fulfillment and motivation here. And same here, like for me, why I do what I do is really, I want to help people to reach their full potential, to really believe in themselves. My favorite saying is like, own your greatness to shine and thrive and make a great impact in this world. So I really believe when you own your greatness with confidence, like you're unstoppable. You can really achieve anything there. So my next question is, tell us a little bit about your career journey before you started your business.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I was a newcomer in Canada, new immigrant in Canada. And, any Canadian in the house, drop it in if you had to go with that no Canadian experience. Well, I moved from States. I got married. I moved from States after my husband got laid off. We're talking about 22 years ago. Okay. He got laid off. And then when the layoff happens, trust me, whole life just changes. We have no idea what we're going to do next. And it happened. Luckily, we had a PR in Canada. So we came in Canada. He had to deal with the Canadian experience, no Canadian experience. And then, he was in IT sector. He graduated in States and still he had a hard time bouncing back. And then after going for multiple rejections, finally he bounced back. And then, you know what, I went to college here. Then I got my survival jobs. I've done it all. And it's posted on my feature item as well. If you want to know more about me, go ahead and read it. And then I climbed up the ladder. So I got literally I felt that I was not doing well. But then when I looked back, you know what, I got 9 promotions within 12 years. And I was like, okay, that's not bad, right? And then I got laid off within 60 seconds on the phone. I tell you, it was horrible for me to feel that. And back then, it was not even normal. Getting a call and people were, there was a mass layoff. And then I was impacted as well. My role was eliminated. I was working from home. I got a call. It's like, okay, I was done after working there for 12 years. And I was like, okay, I think it's time for me to change. It didn't hit me then. And then I bounced back. And then I resigned because my heart and soul was not there, because after I got laid off, I went through the volunteering. Like, I was a different person. I didn't want to lead anyone. And I wanted to consult and make an impact out there based on my experience. And then, you know what, I just started teaching too. And I teach like newcomers and then career professionals and then people who are laid off, because I can totally relate with their emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to do a quick check. We have, folks from Canada here, like Ria, Tiffany. Hey, I want to hear from our audience too. If any of you have experienced a layoff, how many times? Type into 1 if it's the first time, 2, 3 if it's your third time. Let us know if you experienced a layoff before. Like we're going to talk about a story. I love that you already answered my second question, your story. And let's talk a little bit. Before I share my story, I want to hear a little bit more, like, how did you feel? Like when that happened, that 60-second, what was it like that moment and that week for you, those feelings?
So it was just the chaos. It's like, it's happening to me. And although I think I saw some red flags, there were some rumor mills, our management was new. And I was like, maybe, you know what, it's time for me to change, look somewhere else. And I think it couldn't have happened. It was a really right time for me, I think. First, I was excited. I was like, thank God I don't have to wake up every Monday and then go back. But then it hit me after a week when I saw that, I don't know how the layoff happened to you, but then I had a BlackBerry and cell phone. I disconnected my personal phone. I only had a work BlackBerry, so I had to send those back. I didn't have a computer. I had only, laptop, right? And then I had to send that back. I was struggling to find a new phone for communications. I had a home phone that people people were not even aware of it. And then after a week, when I got my shipped item back with the pictures, like whole house back, right? You know how we built the dream in like our house where we sit? I think it hit me, and I nonstop, like I started crying, and I was like, locked up in the room. And I told my family, I'm like, listen, I'm not ready to actually take on the chores as a housewife right now. Let me just heal. Yeah, it was tough.
Let me just heal. I think it's what I'm hearing, right? Just even letting people close to you, family members who know about how, what you need or the space that you need so that you can take time to heal. It's true. It's emotional process here. And this is why they say it's one of the top 5 most stressful events. So I guess a little bit of my story, it happened over 11 years ago. So this was quite a long time ago. And I remember it happened when I was going into like the downtown Toronto office. It was the boss in HR was there. So I knew, something was wrong, but it happened really quickly. The one thing I've realized, I feel like with getting let go is just there's really not much human element to it. It was just very standard. Unfortunately, you're being let go. As of today, you lose access to everything. And I remember at the time they offered if I needed like an Uber a ride. Instead, I took the TTC, the subway here. And that night I went to a hot yoga class, like just to burn out like all those emotions that I have. And I have to tell you, like that week, it was like a mixed roller coaster ride for me, like in terms of I cried a lot. I felt shame, embarrassment. What else? Like it was just a lot of those emotions. I was afraid to tell people at that time, I have to tell you. I didn't really tell people except my closest friends and family members. Like I was getting married in 2 months. So like my bridesmaid knew about it. But for some reason, I also felt a relief. I felt a relief, meaning that I knew I was planning to leave that job so that I can be closer back to home, because the job required me to travel to London, Ontario. And I knew after my wedding that I would be quitting. It just happened much sooner. So in a sense, I was relieved because I was like, oh, I actually have time to plan for my wedding now. I can focus on this. And so within a week for me, I started my business. I just started my business, printed out 5,000 business cards at my wedding shower. I told all my friends that I'm now a speaker and coach. And I think that's what I did part to cope as well. But I faced a lot of emotions. I actually had one of my life coaching friends who drove out all the way from Guelph to come see me to help me coach through my mindset. And this is why I really believe, that first week or two, you need to take time to process these emotions because you're trying to make sense of it. You may have your own version of it. You may think, like for me, I was like, am I a bad performer? Did I do something wrong? Did I make a mistake? All these things that you're telling yourself, you're going through all these scenarios. And you probably never know. A lot of times it's business decision there, right? Now looking back, what's interesting actually before this, after I started my business in a week, within a couple of weeks, one of my really close MBA friends referred me to an opportunity to recruit at Google Canada as the first and only recruiter here. And so literally a month after the layoff, I got an offer with Google Canada, and it was a contract role for 1 year to help recruit. And little did I know that opportunity was the launch pad to really propelling my business forward, because that opportunity gave me the chance to really understand what employers look for. What does it take to really differentiate as top talent in the top 2% there? Really how to leverage LinkedIn to connect with people. And so those are things that I really gained and learned through the experience that actually helped me get coaching clients and get speaking. And so one of the things when I look back for me is like losing the job was one of the best things that happened. You may not see that now. And in fact, I'll tell you, like for me, I didn't really publicly talk about it until 5 years later. 5 years later. And I think part of it, there was still that shame, embarrassment, whatever that is there, that I just never talked about it. I talked to my friends about it, but I never really talked about it there. Yeah. So I think the lesson takes time to heal.
Absolutely. And you're right. I think it's almost like, unwanted child that I felt. And I'm like, how are they there? And I am here, but it takes
Hmm.
that why keeps on popping back. And I didn't talk about it so much as well. When people would ask me, I would just divert those topic that what are you doing right now? Like I would not be even talking about it, right? I avoided networking. I didn't want to say that, listen, my role was eliminated, almost like, it's so hard. Like, the technical jargons are so hard in corporate world. People might think that I got fired, there's a difference between getting fired with the cause versus roles eliminated. And how do you sit down and talk to people about it, right? So I didn't want to get into
Yeah.
that, like, deeper. So instead, I know I said to people like, you know what, I quit. I was like, I just quit.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
not taking on like accountability was the big issue for me for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like now, like, I feel like since the pandemic, and you probably noticed, is that it's easier now for people to talk about a
Yes.
layoff because it's all in the news, social media. Like, even with recently Shopify laying off like 1,000 people, you see instantly that same day people posting about the news.
Oh my God, I wish we had those kind of support and I wish I'd done that, right? And this is such a good community and people are reaching out, people have a group and so much support for people that I wish we had it back then. We had to navigate around ourselves and I think I got a lot of rejections, got so many things that we tested out and it worked for us. But
Yeah,
again, there's so many supports right now. I'm
totally.
so happy when it comes to LinkedIn. Like people are leveraging this like so much.
Yeah, yeah. I want to check into the chat, because I know some of us share, like, that they experienced layoff. I think I saw, was it Janine experienced 4 times layoff.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. One recently, I guess, took 6 minutes over a Zoom call. Karen shared first time just 2 weeks ago who experienced a layoff there.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. How are you feeling, or how did it felt when this happened? Like, type into some of these emotions, how you feel. I think it's important to talk about these emotions as well, so that we can also heal from this process here. So let's move on to our next question here. I'm going to dive into our topic question here. Let me see here. What are the signs of getting laid off? What are those signs here that for those who are still working right now, or just what are some things they should pay attention to?
Okay, so based on my experience, and again,
Yeah.
like I was reading the CBC News, and as per Stat Canada, we lost around 43,000 jobs just last month, right? So there's a sign already. So watch the labor market. And when we got laid off, it was not that bad, right? But then again, recession is hitting. Just, take it. What jobs are eliminated? First thing is to get the information from the right source. And let's say if you are an individual working in the environment right now where you are not you're kind of confused if you're going to be impacted, I think listen to those water cooler talks. See if there are any new hire, like consultant, they're coming in and they're trying to modify the things you do. They're tracking the productivity. And that's exactly what happened to us as well, right? So our company got merged, bought by someone else, a top company. And then every time we're told this is it, this is it, this is it. But then it was never it. So next, right? So in fact, I got picked for the role because they eliminated the role for someone else. I was the one when that happened at the layoff to carry their stuff out, and I took over the team, right? So the old team. So at that time, did I think that this may be me one day? I never thought about that, but that happened right after a year or something, right? So you got to think about, one thing that I failed to think about it. If there's anyone else who can do the job without you, your role is going to be redundant. That's the thing that you really got to think about it, right? Your boss can do your job, your partners can do your job, your senior teammate can do your job, then probably you are at the risk right now if they're cutting the cost, right? That's what happened to me. And then the second thing is rumor mill, like a lot of closed door meeting, one-to-one meeting, management not getting, like old management not getting along with the new management. There's like finger pointings and stuff like that too. Like you got to watch out, right?
Yeah.
And when you become the last thing I want to put it in there is when you go from office pet to office threat, you probably would be targeted as well. This is exactly the time people are going to weed you out, and that's perfect timing for employers to actually give you that layoff, because now it's like, you know what, you don't get along with the new vision and management. You know what, you're gonna go, but they're not gonna tell you that. You just have to understand, and that has happened so many times in the industry I've come in. So if you're not getting along with bosses, new management, and everything, you know what, you're probably the one. And then if you're paid like top as well, probably you're going to be the one to go as well. So these are some of the signs that I have seen it. What about you? Anything that
I want to say that's a good one, what you just talked about here, like the signs, like if you don't get along with someone, that could definitely be a potential, like a threat out there. Like I have seen, like, because I have actually experienced even some of my closest friends who experienced layoffs, like high performers, really smart people, or even recently someone who's a president of a huge company managing thousands of people. The company exceeded their targets, still got let go. And so sometimes there's this, it could happen to anyone. What I'm trying to say, it happened like whether you're a new hire or whether you're someone who's very experienced, very senior. It could happen to anyone out there. So whether it's like there's company challenges or even like people challenges there. The other thing could be right now, like, I mean, this past few years, what I've seen is a lot is particular when you see how a lot of tech companies have been hiring a lot. I think there's just been a lot of overhiring that's been happening. And a lot of people have also been getting paid more than before. Like I've seen this with a lot of my clients. And there is a risk if companies are trying to either downsize to save money, to cut costs, or if they're not getting the funding anymore. And like you said, if their roles are like duplicated, there is a chance for them to losing their job there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another one I've seen is when there are mergers and acquisitions happening or there's restructure happening. Those are also those potential signs. And probably some of you have seen in the news, like companies that have a hiring freeze. And I've seen this with people I know where they worked at, they're trying to figure out what to do internally first.
That's what
before they do anything. They're spending weeks to try to figure out how they're going to get their act together, how they're going to restructure, who they need to let go before they do any more new hiring.
That's a very good point. Like, history proves it all. Tech, and then like hiring freeze, and slow down, and then what's next, right? Inflation is high, and you're going to be like, okay, well, what are the things that, what the machine can do? Have you been to Walmart lately? I don't see any cashier. I see like literally, shoppers, retail industries are putting the AI through, like, those jobs are at jeopardy right now, I think. And I'm like, oh my God, so, and Walmart just declared that, they're having a tough time. Walmart, can you believe that? It's a retail giant. So when that happens, it's coming. And especially when that happens to the neighboring country, just like the way that Great Resignation happened and we got hit later on, we are always like laid back and think, oh, Canada's going to be okay. Canada's going to be okay. But you know what? It's getting to us. So we got to step up and then have a game plan right now and develop those strategies. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You guys step in and have a game plan. Like it's like Walmart. I was reading Unilever let go of like over 1,000 people as well, consumer goods there. Right? We think people are still spending, but there's layoffs happening as well there too. So let me see in the comments here. What Cher, we were asking about how people felt. Karen Cher, complete shock. Thought I would be there till I retired. Had gotten a second promotion and a bonus in 2021. My director and myself were both laid off, and we know we were cut based on our salary, not just the realignment there. Jennifer Cher, that I just experienced that with a new boss. I was let go because I was a threat. Yeah, so thank you for sharing this there. Okay, so let's talk about the next question here is, let me see here, how to bounce back from a layoff.
You know what? I wanted to touch on like something before even bouncing back. And a lot of people don't feel that, it's, they don't think about it. When you get the job offer, they really don't think about it, what's in there. This is where everything starts, right? And job offer actually is a giveaway how you are dictating your exit on the way out, severance package and everything. This is where you got to be very careful on it. Don't accept the job offer on the spot. This belongs right now. So one thing that I wanted to tell you right now is doesn't matter if you're at the risk or not. I want you to go and get the job offer that you've signed recently and then put it on the folder somewhere safe, because that's exactly what you need. How are you going to be getting severance package, right? These are the things that I had no idea about. And then I had to go through it and see it, if I was paid fairly, how does that work and everything. So how do you bounce back? First is, all right, it happened. It's not under your control. What are you going to do now? Let's take the emotion out for a bit and think it. I don't care. You love your manager. You love the company. You would do anything. You want to go back. But first thing first is, companies are there to make a profit. It's like a marriage. You were in a partnership and
Mhm.
you broke up. Like you are going through a divorce. You equally actually, contributed to their profits. Don't be like, oh, I'm okay. No, they're going to look after themselves. You're going to look at the package and see, are you paid fairly? This is not being greedy. You got
Yeah.
to be compensated. And severance package, is there a non-compete clause right now? It's a big deal because it's changed. The law has changed now since 2021 November, I think. But a lot of people had non-compete compete clause, something like that. So can you imagine? You can't even now go and work with someone else that they're going to be paying higher. You have to say no to the opportunity. These are so many things you don't look at it on job offer, non-solicit clause as well, right? There's so many clauses you got to look into it, especially on the higher level, because
Yes.
they're dictating your exit on the job offer. These are the things you bounce back. But then let's say that happens, you can always go back and negotiate. There's a clawback. You're probably given severance for years, but you know what? If you go back with the higher money, they're going to keep the money, forfeit it. So you got to dictate that. You got to go out there and negotiate your benefits. You're literally on the severance pay for whatever. It depends on how they're going to pay you. Now, on the job offer, when you had it before, when you signed it, that you're not going to be paid out any bonuses, incentive that you're eligible for, you got to be employed. That might be dictated on the job offer. This is where you negotiate when you sign up the contract. But then if that doesn't happen, later on when you move out, when you get that layoff packages, technically you are entitled to all the benefit as a full-time worker, benefits, RSP match, anything that you're entitled as a full-time, including the bonuses, prorated bonuses if it goes the next year, if you're getting a severance pay as well. So a lot of people don't know, and companies try to get away with this because they're like, we're going to go bare minimum based on the Standard Act, ESA, Employment Standard Act. It happens in states in US and then Canada as well, all over. But then you want to look into it, run it by, get the legal advice, because money, your bills are going to be not waiting for you. It's going to be, you gotta have the mortgage handy, right? So make sure you actually take care of it, because when you take that out, then you can focus on healing now, because that's actually the money that you earn it. Don't let it go. I've heard people saying that, oh, they pay fairly. I don't want to fight back. I don't want to burn the bridge. You're not burning the bridge. Do it properly. It's your right.
I totally agree. I want to echo this, because so what I'm hearing is, one, there's negotiate when part of your job offer you get, but also when you're exiting to negotiate that. And I would argue, what I've seen from my experience, those, if they're experiencing the first time layoff or their more junior role, they just take whatever they get. But my more senior level, executive level clients at the C-suite, they know to negotiate. They don't settle for just whatever they're giving. They'll negotiate their bonus, their equity, the severance, the benefits, negotiating for career transition support.
That's
All of that.
That's the one. You can even get the cash for it. You know what? Why are you? It's like insurance company you're hiring when the car has an accident. They're dictating you to actually go there and go to their body shop. You're like, no, give me the money. I want to hire Diana. I want to hire Sweta. I want to work a one-to-one. I don't want to work with the webinars, boot camps. It doesn't work with me. You know how they place you? One size fits all. I don't want that.
Yes.
They have
Can we talk about that? Yeah, I want to encourage people. You're right. Is oftentimes, especially bigger companies, they already have whatever their career transition outplacement agency paired out already, and they'll send you to them. But you can negotiate and say hey, I would like to use that funding towards my own preferred coach there. You can negotiate that. It could be $3K, $5K, $10K, whatever that is worth. You just need to ask for it. They're just redirecting their funds there. I had a client last year who was a president of an advertising agency. They gave her $10K. And she asked to who she wanted to work with, and she hired me. And so that's something to ask for. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get. Here's the thing. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get.
Answer is always no if you don't ask. I had a same client. He was on the third layoff. I actually interviewed him. He's on my YouTube channel as well, right? Fiaz Ali. So he's in the management, and then he got laid off after the third layoff during pandemic. He was always going with the outplacement, right? So he's like, I want to work with somebody one-to-one now, right? Because he's gone through it, right? So I worked with him. He negotiated too, right? You know what I mean? Like in a severance package, you can do it. And answer is always no. And it's like I've taken the outplacement. Let me just put it out there. Top outplacement. That's what I thought, but like, it didn't work for me because I am unique. I mean, like, it's like going to the doctor, a counselor, and like, when you are filled with emotions, like, you know what? Let's work on the group. It didn't work for me. Like, I wanted someone to handhold me one-to-one, right? This is exactly what you need. And if you can, please negotiate. If you can't, then make sure you negotiate the date, because what they do as well on the contract is you have to start within certain date, and you're not even healed. You're like, I'm not ready to bounce back yet, right? So there's so many clauses because they're looking after the employers, right? They want you to quickly bounce back, but you're not even healed. And the webinars and everything is in strict timeline. You can watch the video later on. Like, there's so many things. It's not customized for you. And if you're not one of those who learn through that, you know yourself better. Don't settle in, extend it, and see there's so many things you can negotiate before even you bounce back. This is how you bounce back, really. Don't go there and say, I have to do it, because the deadlines are there for a reason, to scare you. Even the severance, you don't have to actually sign it right away. A lot of people are like, if I don't sign it, I'm not going to get that severance package. No. You are entitled to stay and then negotiate.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very important lesson. And I have to tell you, like, when you are feeling highly emotional, it is hard to negotiate there, right? So talking to someone or getting legal support is something to consider. I want to ask you a question, get your thoughts on this. Should people make a LinkedIn announcement about their layoff?
Absolutely.
What are your take on this?
Oh my God. Like, the trends, you've been seeing the trend, right? Like, I'm not like, yes, it might sound as like, oh no, don't announce it because you don't want to get the sympathy. But when there's a mass layoff, people know, look at the trend going on right now. People are announcing it with the mass layoff. I wish I had done that. So that way people knew, like, what I'm looking for and everything. Like I said, I was so ashamed, embarrassed, like it was my fault. Now is the market, and people are not going to judge you as long as you do it strategically. You got to be, there are some LinkedIn posts, it's not done strategically, and there are posts it's done very strategically. But there's a thing called positive toxic, like, positive things that that it's not, no way it's true, right? You don't have to literally thank everybody, like, everything. If you're really mad about it, stay on the topic, like, what you've learned, and then, like, go with the flow without actually talking negatively about anyone else, but be very strategic about it. That's my take. What is your take?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about positioning your delivery, perception, right? How you make others feel there. I know it's the two sides, right? Some people like, I would make the announcement because it's already a mass layoff. Like, you want to hop on this bandwagon there. For some, you may need time just to really heal first, and maybe you can post it later on down the road. Give yourself a week or two to process before you post. But I think, like you said, like, it's all about positioning. And a lot of the ones that I've been seeing right now is like the news, and then they express their gratitude, a gratitude type post, a paragraph, and then, looking for your next gig there, right? So that's a common type of post that I'm seeing there. It's all about how you position it at the end of the day, right? Like, do you talk negatively or not? I think it's okay these days, just because I feel like it's more normalized than ever before, like especially the last 2 years with the pandemic. Like, people don't see like, oh, why is this person posting about their layoff story? It's almost like not awkward anymore, just because everyone's more open to talking about it.
Especially when it's in the news that okay, here's the thing, okay? People tend to think this, but I think otherwise. How you onboard people and how you exit them out during layoff is the employer branding. Because if they actually had onboarded, like, exited me out with really amazing, like, made me feel special and made us feel special, I'm going to go out there and say, well, you got to work with that company. I'm so grateful, right? But if they haven't done it, you know what? Bring it out. You get to talk about it, because if you don't get to talk about it, these people are going to be bad employers, going to be bad employers. There are top employers out there. I know how they work, right? They have skeleton. And how you
Mhm.
talk about people who are no longer there matters too. Like when there's a mass layoff, in one news, you're saying they were a hard worker, better.com, right? So, and then the inside you start bad mouthing people like who are no longer there to like, even advocate. That's a bad leadership and you should stay away from it, right? And guess what? I mean, like, even though I'm not working there, I probably have a people who have eyes near. It's going to
Yeah,
come back to me. I know how, like, you talk about me behind my back and
true.
you think I'm going to support you behind your back. No, I'm going to write the content about you without naming you because
Yeah.
people need to know and people are going to reach out to me and I'm like, yeah, that's that company, right?
Yep.
But then again, I can afford to burn the bridge because I'm not heading to corporate. It's what's at stake. I'm self-employed consultant because
Yeah.
I'm there to educate, right? But then you stay away from it if you do not want to burn the bridge. And that there's a positioning. That's what you got to be careful about.
Yes. Don't burn bridges. That's a key nugget here. Don't burn bridges. You just never know. Like the industry is really small. People talk there. So it's so important to keep that in mind. And this is why part of my take, and as we move on, I actually want to answer a question first before we move another question. Ria had a question, which is one of our questions as well, is how to go about explaining a layoff and explaining a gap in your resume. Do you be honest? How do you frame it?
Of
How does
course. I mean, okay, I have for some people, if you really want to see the sample, I have it on YouTube channel. I also posted it if you go onto my LinkedIn profile with the sample. How do you update on LinkedIn and how do you update that on a resume as well? And how do you say it on an interview? We can go through that later on. So here's the thing, right? LinkedIn, amazing tool they have now that they never had it before was career gap, guys. Do you even know? Like a lot of people don't even know. Under experience sections, if you want to, there's a role eliminated, layoff. Crazy, right? You can do that. So people who are going to see your profile, they already know. And there are people who are going to talk about like, don't ask, don't tell. I mean, that works too sometimes. I'll tell you what, one of my client who got hired recently this month in Amazon, she was laid off. She's an HR manager. She was laid off. They didn't ask, she didn't tell. But then it was really recent. She literally got laid off like, last week or something like that, right? So like, she got offers. She's starting, in fact, in September. They didn't ask, right? But then it might come up in references, whatever it is, right? So it's good to let them know later on because when the references happen, checks happen, right? It depends on how you're exited out. If you're on payroll, then it's going to come in as you're still employed technically, right? But then if you're not on payroll, like you got the lump sum payment, then like they might confirm that no, the person is no longer working here, right? Because employer can say yes or no without going to the detail, right? Last day of
Yeah.
employment. So that's when it's going to come out. So the ball is in your court. The resume, you can put it on there, career gap. I did that, layoff, laid off right beside, right? So people knew. And then on LinkedIn as well, you can do that as well. On interview, I normally tell my clients if they're comfortable, depending on the situations, I tell them to nip it in the bud earlier on so there's no confusion on it. Like, tell me about yourself right there.
Mhm.
That's what I say. Full accountability. You go with the technique. I teach them PARC technique, PARC. I follow the framework. And then, P would be there. That's where the P would be on a present. You're going to talk about, my role unfortunately got eliminated. Done. That's it. 20-second and move on to ARC model, right? Own that.
Can you repeat that? Okay, I love that. That your model. Can you for those who are listening to part?
PARCC, so which is on a P. It all depends on where they are. So P would be past, your passion. So basically, okay, let me
Yep.
start. So PARCC, if you want to apply this model, but then it doesn't work for everybody at the time. So you got to pick and choose what works with your targeted role, job descriptions, and everything. So past, right? Your past history, your passion. How did you get there? And then it's going to be like your present. This is where it comes in, present. So what are you doing now? It's going to be next question. Why are you leaving? So before they even ask you there, you slide it literally on the present. And then action, what happened in the past role, bring some accomplishment there. And the result was some kind of data. And then the C would be all about company. Why are you there for interviewing? So looking at company's website, media release, whatever it is, depending on the role. And then the C would be ending up with a conversation, which is, I am a huge fan of not sitting down there and taking the order. I'm a fan about when it hits you, well, tell me about yourself. You're going to go, okay, well, let me know if you want me to go in specifically on that particular, job, or you want me to talk about specific tools I've used in the past, right? Go on to the conversation right away, each conversations. And that happens from the get-go.
Yeah, I love it. And what I'm taking away here is don't be afraid to talk about this, right? It's a simple line. It's like, my role got eliminated, or there was restructuring happening. Everyone in the department got let go. It'd be simple as that, right? Now, for some, I know there are some people who are at smaller companies where it's not like a mass layoff. It could just be one or two, but you can still highlight that that your role was eliminated. Simple as that. What not to say, we can talk about this, is you don't want to badmouth the employer. Right?
Yeah.
And this is where I want to talk about this, because I work with so many clients where about half of my clients have experienced some sort of layoff or lost their job. There's always the emotional attachment to it, right? And it's so important, before you are ready to go for an interview, before you go to network, is really think about how you want to answer these questions. Because oftentimes, I know when I work with clients one-on-one, I was like, if you have any venting to do, come do it with me first before you go for an interview. Because then you may appear either desperate or unhappy, or that you didn't like what you were doing previously. That's one of the things I heard from one of my friend who was a CHRO, was those who either badmouth their employer or just say negative things, just have a negative mindset of how they show up in an interview. And it's not, it's frowned upon, essentially.
Absolutely. And it's, they're not only about that, whenever the question comes in, would be like, tell me what would your boss say about you, right? You had a horrible boss. What are you going to say? It's going to come out if you don't know how to handle those, thing. Tell me, when was the last time you got constructive criticism, or when you were performance managed, and you hated the boss and you got laid off, whatever it is, it's going to come out somewhere. So you got to stick to the example, which is going to be something that you're aware. And for that, you're going to have to go on to the new model, which is the CARL, which I teach, is lesson learned, right? The context, action, result, and the lesson learned as well. But the lesson would be something that we all want to own it. Don't go my boss was bad, but actually it helped me grow, and feedback helps you grow, right? You put the positive spin to it. And if you want to learn more about Carl, I went live. It's on my YouTube channel as well. Go and see the framework. I have an example as well.
Yeah, that's great. Brandy shared here, I'm returning to work after a 4-year gap. I was nervous, but all interviewers embraced it and viewed the gap as a positive. Right. So I want to talk about this, because I also have supported clients who've had a longer gap, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. The longest I've seen is even a 10-year gap. And a lot of it's how you frame it. For some, it could be there or stay-at-home mom, for example. And that's why they had a longer gap there. So to me, it's all about how you go about explaining it, especially I think the last few years with the pandemic. A lot of people, it wasn't because of a layoff, but they decided to quit their jobs, or they left their job because of whatever reason there. And it could just be a simple reason for that, and people will understand.
Yeah. So how do you I wonder, how do you navigate around that conversations? Oh, there's a gap, right? It's so hard because the gaps are so personal. That opens a whole can of worms, right? Sometime maternity leave and you are not able to go back for whatever reason. Sometime you're taking care of someone that, you needed to have that compassionate care at home as well, right? So, and I tell people, are you comfortable with disclosing it sometimes? But there's a biases, right? People, especially with the women, when you bring up your kids, that's why we say, don't bring your personal things, kids and everything, because they might judge you saying that, oh, she's not going to be committed to work, right? That happens to a lot of women. And where do you draw the line, right? So the ball is in your court, but again, don't TMI. I say too much information is really not good, because that opens the can of worm. And then managers, I've been a hiring manager in the hiring world for more than 10 years, an award-winning company. And honestly, nobody teaches you how do you check your unconscious bias. There's a class that we all went through it, but there's no self-audit, right? And I probably have dropped so many balls, not even knowing that I was actually going with the biases. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't give things that it would hold them thinking, oh, what about this, right? So
yeah, I hear you. I totally hear you. You don't want to give out too much information. And to me, I think this goes back to how you see yourself and how you see the situation, right? If you see it as something that, if you explain that, oh, it was too much for me, I couldn't handle it, there may be the perception, well, can you handle the job? But if you position that more of like, well, I decided to dedicate this time, like to really take care of my family was really important. And now I have this space and energy to really dedicate and focus on my career. It's a reframe of how you position it to see it, for people to see it differently there. So I think one is how do you see it? Do you see it as something that you're proud of, or do you feel like that's something that you just feel ashamed of? So that's where the mindset really comes in there.
A lot of people, even like for those people, if you have a gap right now, a lot of people, what they also do is if you do not want to disclose it, and if you feel like you're going to be, there's going to be discrimination, you can go on LinkedIn on career gap again, choose it. There's a personal sabbatical as well.
Yes,
you can take a personal sabbatical, and then you can bring it up in an interview. So what happened was, I decided to take a personal sabbatical to focus on, me, or learning or traveling, whatever it is, right? So like, you don't have to disclose why, but like, make the word count for you, and then learn, what did you learn from that journey, right? Make it, I did that actually, matter of fact, like I had 1 year of gap, more than that. And then I was really concerned about it, right? Because I was in the hiring team, and I know that how the hiring manager looks at the gap. And I was asked a couple of times. And then I purposely, strategically went out there and volunteer, and then blasted my pictures and journey and everything. I traveled back home, I volunteer, I taught and everything. I did that so that way when they check me out, they know that, okay, well, you know what, she's doing something meaningful, right? So put it out there strategically only.
Yes, strategically only. I think we addressed Ria's question, right? So you can be honest, but saying you took a personal gap, but not give too much detail. How do you say it? I think that personal sabbatical one is a great answer, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like and this is what you can put even in your resume, simple, like career note, personal sabbatical for X amount of months. It could just be simple as that. And that's all it is. I've had people and clients who are like newcomers where they take some time off because they need to settle into their transition.
There you go. And what about it? Like there's a word for it. I tell them to do it. What? Traveled? I don't know. What was it? So there was a section in the career thing as well. So, but then again, volunteering. So a lot of people, like they go out there and let's say for newcomers, if you're a newcomer right now, like, you all have a community. You can go there and then volunteer and put that as a community organization as well, because you volunteer as well, right? So that way you can, we're trying to hide the gap, but then you are not hiding the gap, but you're learning something in Canada as well, right?
I love that. Volunteering is a great way to, address part of that gap, or how you're transitioning as well into a new country, new city, new culture. So that's a fantastic one. Thank you for sharing that. So Jennifer asked here is, if I work only for 1.5 months in a toxic work environment, is it better to just remove it and say I freelance?
What are your thoughts? And I'm like, I wouldn't.
For me, if it's only 1.5 months, I feel like you don't even have to put it in there because it's so short.
For me, and here's a catch that I wanted to bring it up. Okay. Did you know, depending on the sector you're trying to, especially in States and Canada, depending on what are your targeted role, there's a consent for pulling the credit, credit history, especially in the banking sector. And that would show up. And like, what's going to happen is on a background check, it's like, what happened? You didn't disclose in the resume, and that might put you on that, right? So be aware of that as well when you're trying, especially with a job hopper. I tell them like, job hopping is like, good. Like, and that's fine. It all depends on how you job hop. Is it you? Is it like the organization? Whatever. You don't have to talk about it. You don't want to list it, don't list it, but be prepared. If you're going to that organization where they're going to pull the credit history on you, they're going to see the history of it. So how are you going to answer that, right? So be very strategic about it too.
Yep, depend on industry. I think the other thing, a take that I would like to think about is, if you do get ads, it's like it's not as relevant, or it was just a short thing that it wasn't something that you want to have space to take in your resume. Right. Beautiful. Especially if I say like 3 months, 4 months, if it doesn't add to the story, doesn't help necessarily with your candidacy, it's irrelevant. Right. So if you ever get asked, it's not because we're intentionally hiding it. It's just, it's not relevant. You didn't have space to put it in your resume.
Absolutely.
Just not enough content to really beef it up.
Yeah. I didn't learn anything from there, so I did not.
There's not much to talk about.
I know.
And I have to tell you, like, I have seen this past year, out of my 10 years as a coach, that I have seen more people after they start a new job, within the first 3 months, they realize it's not the right job and they're ready to quit.
Me, I did that.
Yeah.
I bounced back after I got laid off and I was like, man, this is not for me. I went from the contact center award-winning company to different award-winning company into the branch department. Like, I was like, oh man, this is not for me. I can't wait to quit. I tried and tried. And I'm like, one day, I've never taken stress leave. In my whole throughout my career in corporate world, that was a job made me take a stress leave. And I resigned by email. I said I quit. And this is how I started the teaching too. I was like, I can't have this. Like, I'm such a wrong fit for that job. So it's okay to quit. But then again, don't be miserable. Just have an action plan. I tested the water, side hustle, this, teach and do. And then I said, I don't want to upgrade anything. I wanted to give it back to the people where I've learned so much as a job seeker, hiring managers. I've interviewed thousands of people. I promoted so many, people within my direct reports environment as well. So I was like, I think I can do this. And you know what happened? Especially after the outplacement services I took after I got laid off, I was like, oh, there's a career for this. I didn't even know that. I was like, I can do better than this. And I started and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Right. So, you realize it. Now, what are you going to do about it? You're going to be stuck there miserably, or you want to do something about it? Have an exit plan. That's what I did.
Have an exit plan. Have an exit plan. So what I want to address with this, like, I feel like part of the trend, or what I've been seeing of why people are either more likely sooner to quit their job or not like it. Part of it, I do believe it's with the pandemic and all that there's still a misalignment of understand the role, the expectations, and really navigating, like, working virtually effectively. And also because of all the changes, things are constantly changing. So there is that, I guess maybe it's like misadvertised of what the role really entails there. And so back to this point here, I think it's okay that you need to quit. But I think even going back to the story here, for those who are recently experienced a layoff, before rushing into a new job, really take the time and get clear on what you really want. Right? This is where the clarity, I always talk about the soul searching before job searching piece. We're not saying you got to take like a whole year off, but even just that first month or two, just like really, one, process your emotions. Second, reflect on, like, what do you like? What don't you like? And then really third is get clear on, like, what's next? Like, do you want to stay in something similar, or is this an opportunity for you to pivot industries, try new careers? Right. For me, like, when I experienced a layoff, it was going from recruiting to starting my own business, right, as a coach. And so this could be the launch pad for some of you if you experience this layoff there, right? Some of my clients, I'll tell you, Sweta, like, some of my clients, because they really want to get out and they want to find something new. Like, I've had discussion with clients where go ask for that severance package. Right? If you know your companies, like, instead of just quitting, right, where you don't get anything, I'm going to be really honest here, is instead of just quitting and you've been there for like 10 years, it's like, I had a client one time who was a sales engineer and she wanted to become a career coach. 18 years at the same company. 18 years.
Wow.
And I was like, instead of quitting, why don't you go talk to your boss to see if you can get a severance package? Right? At first they're like, oh, no, we can't do that, blah, blah, blah. But, just raise your hand. Like, if there is coming up, I'm volunteering to, to leave the company. And it worked. It didn't happen immediately. It happened a few months later. But if you feel like, this is something that you're ready to go and you've been at the company for a long time, don't leave money on the table.
I did that. So, full disclosure, we had a couple of managers. I trained them. We hired them. Like, I molded them, and I said, like, you know what? They're like, no, I don't think I need to be here. My intention was like, move me out of this department. I'm not getting along with my boss. Like, I don't want to work with him. He's not going to change. So move me out of here. And then they were looking into the different things. And then it so happened that I was so resistant with the new management style. I was like, I think it's time for me to go. I don't think you need 3 managers. You know what? If there's anything, either move me out or, like, you can't fire me. I put him on the spot. I said, if you can't fire me, because you can't, because I'm a stellar performer. I was so like into it. I said, you can't fire me, but then do something about it, And then, like, later on I was packaged out. Best decision ever. That's a very good move. If you don't want to quit, you don't want to lose it, just do it, because it was time for me to go. And then, because of the environment I was in, I was not feeling it. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Yeah.
The important lesson that we're talking about here is be willing to ask and negotiate. Like if
My
you don't
staff
ask,
did that too. That work, you brought a very good point. My staff did that too. Like we were not getting along, not personality type and everything. Nothing was working, it was going back and forth. And then couple of staff reached out to the HR and they were like, okay, well, she asked for it. You know what? We're going to go and package her out. I'm like, thank God, we do that. I was like, I didn't want to manage someone who's not coachable sometimes, right? Like, again, like, not the bad person, but people were at the wrong role. So I was like, if I don't have to document, if I don't have a performance manager, it's firing in Canada is really hard, right? With the cost.
yeah,
So we'd rather
yeah.
do the severance. And that's exactly layoffs going to happen. If you're on that, there you're not fitting in. I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this is the clue. I think it's a takeaway, right? If you see companies are laying off and you want to be part of it, but you're not part of it, go ask for it. I have seen some companies where they ask for people to volunteer, like some big insurance companies. I've seen that as well, like asking people if they want to volunteer to leave and get a package out. If you're already thinking of moving anyways, why not get something out of it? So you can take this time to take a break, right?
Yeah, and like be strategic about it, right? Like, you got to make a case on it too.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
just going to do it. And then you've tried it all and first of all, if you're a good employee, they will try to put you on a different team. And if they can't find it, and that's what my like whoever did it, reach out to me later on, like, we try to find the role for you and then we can find it. So you didn't like the people management aspect. So hence the thing, and like put me on a reference whenever. I was like, okay, personal reference, right? But then again, the thing is that I wanted to segue away from this one is how do you bounce back is here's the thing. I want to give you one tip that I've done it right. Okay. Not even knowingly, whoever got laid off. And if I like that person, if I want to be part of their network in the future, it didn't matter, whoever, biggest people, like right there on top. Title did not intimidate me. I reached out to him. I'm so sorry that happened to you. You know what? I love this about you and I know you're going to bounce back. And that saved my ass later on because when I got laid off, these are the same people. I was like, now it's my time. Let's connect. And so much value connecting with the same people, ex-employee who were laid off. You have a group, man. Like, you know what? You got to do that right now. Don't be selfish.
Yeah.
Reach out to those people because I remember who called me during my days. I remember who did not bother to call me and that I thought they were good friends. I remember them.
Mm.
Do you, Diane?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's so interesting you say this, right? That the lesson here is you build relationships, like reach out to people, check in on people, help people out here. And because you just never know, that could be you next. Like you just never know. And people are going to remember like those who actually checked in and reached out. This is so key. Like there's this piece where, yes, you want to maybe have your alone time and all that. But when you're ready, talking to people, building relationships is really, really important. That is really key, I would say, especially for those who are in very senior level roles. Like the clients I work with, the VP level, SVP level, C level, it's always through relationships and them like bouncing back into the next role. It's not through applying online. And so you have to reach out to those people who've been there for you, right? Who can endorse you, who can help make introductions there. That's part of bouncing back from a layoff. And I think it's totally okay. Like there's this piece around, I want to address like, there's the layoff piece, but there are those I know, a lot of people who chose to, let's say, leave, to quit, the whole great resignation that's been happening this past year as well. I've seen friends where, yes, they have a network where people are reaching out, like, giving them opportunities. I think it's okay to also set your own boundaries of when you're ready to go back to work there. So as an example, I know a lot of times people want to take the summer off before they want to actively job search. Like if you can afford to do that, take that time. Don't rush into a new role, especially if you've been working for a decade or 2 decades and you really want to take a break. Like you deserve this break. I think there's this common worry and a fear that, if I have a 3-month gap, is frowned upon. I personally don't believe that like these days, just because with everything that's been happening, I feel like employers understand. Like even if you have 3-month gap, 6-month gap, or year gap, people totally understand.
Absolutely. And then I don't know if like a lot of people, let's say I want to put it out there right now, regardless of what's going to happen, you're going to be laid off, you're not going to be laid off. You know what? the layoff's going to be something that it would be based on your age. Okay, more money sometimes, your title if you're high up there, because how easy is for you to bounce back, especially on recession right now, that roles are not probably available. You have a lot of competitors, right? It's going to take you a long time to bounce back. Also the length of employment as well, and then your job offer initially you sign up for. A lot of people don't know there's a severance calculator online as well. So I have the layoff, like 7 steps to bounce back, on my blog as well, teachingyou.com, under a blog. Take a look at it. What can be negotiated? What are the calculators like? What you should be getting, rough amount. And if you feel like, you're not actually exited out properly, that's when you got to go and then seek the legal advice. And there are lawyers out there who charges you contingency fee, who works in the percentage. There are lawyers who work on the hourly. So some lawyers, what they do is you seek the initial consultation. It would be anywhere from $300 or something like that. Initial consultations, they will actually go like, I think I can give you more than this amount, right? Like this is what we're targeting. So navigate that. If it's a lot of money, like you don't want to pay everything to the lawyer, right? So like, navigate that, get the advice. And if you sign up with the lawyer, same lawyer, they can, if you retain with them, they will waive that initial consultation fee as well. And then after the case is closed, then what they will do is they will bill you for it. And some of the lawyers, they will charge the employers back as well, right? Because you didn't get compensated fairly. So know your rights. And this is where a lot of people don't do it. They're like settling it. And this is huge. If you plan, if you, let's say, like, if you're on the verge of like getting, how it is, you're not getting along and you see the sign of it, start finding the information. So you're well prepared, because you got to be smart when it comes to that, not like hard. I don't care. You love your boss, just do it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, know your rights, be strategic, be proactive as well. So let's take a look at some of the audience comments and questions here. And by the way, if any of you have questions for us, feel free to let us know here, as we're going to be wrapping up here too. Jennifer said that feeling so much better now with, I guess, the tips that we're offering. Because that's amazing to hear there. So Ruby shared here is, I'm trying to return to work after the pandemic, and I'm shifting careers because of health. I'm lost as to how I'm going to approach applying to new jobs. Okay, I love this. This is something I do all the time, is supporting people.
Yeah, that's right up your alley.
That's totally up my alley. Let me talk a little bit about it. Essentially, is how do I manage a career pivot or a transition after you've taken a break from work here? And so a few things, like I always give some the tips. I would say a few tips. One is getting really clear of what you're going after. I find that oftentimes people are trying to target a very broad area of roles. Get really crystal clear of what you're targeting. This could be as like a simple exercise of really writing out your ideal job description. And if you're really not sure, do some research first, like go read some job postings and see like what resonates with you and put it into your own document there to get really clear. The other thing I would say is really getting clear, what's your criteria in terms of evaluating opportunities? This is a very similar approach to as a recruiter, where I get really clear what's my criteria to find an ideal candidate. So you as a job seeker is getting really clear on that. What is my criteria? Because this is part of you evaluating the right kind of opportunity there. The second stage then is really what I call repositioning your brand, right? Especially if you're looking to shift careers, whether it's a different industry, different role, is really identify like what are essentially, if you're aspiring to this new area, what are those relevant keywords and relevant experience and skills that they're looking for, and add that into essentially your LinkedIn profile and your story there. Like talk about that, okay? That's really key. I'm all about reposition, like how do I brand myself effectively so people can see the connection there. So as an example, I'm going to give you a quick example. Like I have a client right now who comes from a journalism communication background, and part of her strength is being a great storyteller. Okay? And there's this opportunity of a product role, which is very, very different. But upon, researching, networking and all that, she understood that the role requires someone to be a great storyteller in terms of navigating through the organization. So positioning yourself and understand that's what it is that you want to highlight. This is what you're good at. Even though they may not see it first, they may have seen her profile as someone who more journalism background or video background. But if you can really help connect the dots, that's how they're going to see that potential fit there. Okay, so once you get clear on that positioning, that's when you really want to update like your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your elevator page, all those messaging documents. Once you're ready to really apply for jobs or network, you really want to talk more about your why. Like, why are you interested in this new area? Right? Like there needs to be some sort of personal kind of interest in it that you can talk about your why, and talk about what are these things that you've been doing to help you get closer to this new area. Whether it is you done a certificate, a course, research, talking to people, informational chats, talk about that. What are things that you're learning? What do you find interesting? What's fascinating? What type of papers that you've research papers you've been reading? Talk about that, because that's going to showcase your interest. To me, if you can really showcase that you understand the industry, the role, it really showcases that you're a curious learner, that you can be a quick learner. I once had a client who pivoted from the public sector, working as a campaign manager for politicians, to become a product manager. And he did tons of research about the tech industry. Like he knew the data and stats there. And that really impressed the hiring manager. It took him to talk to 16 people at that same company to have people endorse him in order to make that pivot there. So a big part of it is you want to get other people to endorse you, to advocate for you. Not just one person, but it could be your friend, it could be your past colleagues, or developing a relationship with who the potential hiring manager is so that they can really see that a potential fit. And then lastly is really nailing those interviews, right? Like really anticipate the type of questions you could get, those challenging questions that you can get, so that you can really connect the dots. One of the common mistakes I want to say, what I've seen, especially when it comes to career pivot, is that people tend to think of it from their own perspective, meaning I have this skill, I have this experience, this was my experience, and they're just talking from that one perspective. And I really want to challenge people when you're looking to make a pivot is think from that employer's perspective, that new role perspective, and really think about what are the needs, what's critical to success, what's really important to them, what is the day-to-day like, what are the projects like, so that you can connect the dots. Right? You really want to talk about that you understand, and that I understand these are the type of work you've been doing, and I will need to learn this, or I have read up about this. That's how you give them confidence to make that pivot there. Anything you want to add, Sweta?
No, absolutely. You got it beautifully done. I mean, it's what's your why, right? And I think it happened to me as well as a hiring manager, as a leader managing the team. And I wanted to be individual contributor, and I wanted to pivot to nonprofit world. And it was really hard for me because when I looked at the job descriptions, everyone's like, you have to have a social degree. You have to have experience from the social aspect, right? So I built the relationship before even moving here in Sudbury, because I moved from Toronto. It's a new city, bilingual city, almost gave up, and I built the network and everything. And I got the job later on. And then I had my why in there was like, okay, listen, I was a hiring manager. I impressed VP of that company. And then she was retired, and I had a coffee chat on it. And she's like, you know what? She gave me the scoop of it, what's coming up. And then she introduced me to 3 managers. And I kid you not, after a week, I got a call from hiring manager saying that, hey, the posting's going to go up. You're really interested. I feel like I actually said, can I come and volunteer, right? Because that was my strategy. I want to see if I even like it. I've always tested the job market. So I said, can I volunteer? That's a good thing to actually ask without saying, can I have a job, right? Because I want to see it, feel it. If I like it, I do not know, because especially I quit the job first, right? I was like, I want to come and volunteer. So then she's like, you know what? You have the knowledge and experience. We really want you to work full time. And I was like, really? Okay. I didn't even reply. So she wanted my resume. And then turns out the job posting, someone got interviewed, and then they rejected it, and they had me as a backup. I was like, okay. And they gave me a higher role. I was trying to volunteer on the junior role. They gave me, I think you fit in here based on your skill set. I was like, okay. So as you said, networking, the job. So I say put yourself on preferred list by asking, can I help you? I bring this. You know what? Can I sit in the meeting? Can I volunteer? Can I take on project? Because it's a both way, right? You might not like it when you're pivoting it. I didn't think I would like it. And later on, I quit to focus, really. I was a quitter. I quit in a couple of months to focus on teaching. It got busy. But then I brought the perspective, how the nonprofit employment services work versus how I work. So I could see it where there's a gap on it, right? So it was beautiful.
Yeah. I'm glad you're sharing this story. I think what you're highlighting, that you're demonstrating to an employer, is you are proactive, you're eager, you're interested, you're curious, which ties into these qualities of being a curious learner. Employers value that, especially with all the things that are changing. Like, can you learn, right? Is this something that you're interested in? So that's what's really what you're highlighting there. So I agree with you. Especially if those like either a newcomer or there's new to a whole a career, like volunteering or job shadowing, it's a great way to demonstrate more insights, but gain more insights, but also for people to get to know you more. I think a big part is trust, building the trust and confidence and credibility.
Yeah, a lot of people, I don't know if you feel it too, like, there's a lot of people posting about the content saying that, you know what, you got to pay me for my 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever, right? Like, I get it. But sometimes you got to feel it too. Like, I've done a lot of volunteering just to feel it, because I don't know if I'm going to be happy there. I did job shadowing after my layoff. I did a lot of information interview. I did shadow. And the relationship that was built on was like, I don't think, that was the right thing for me, because I was thinking of transitioning into like, something else. I job shadowed, I worked with the VP and everything. And then I decided this is not for me. It's equal opportunity for you as well. But always ask, can I come and shadow? The worst would be what? They're going to say, no, we don't have we don't have that thing, right? I did that. And Diana, I didn't even know, like, the opportunity opened up for me. I went in there, I volunteered, and I said, I have SLR camera. I said, who's going to be doing this event, social media, whatever? And the guy said, we don't have nobody. I said, I'm going to bring my SLR camera. I'm going to take picture, tweet about it. That was my targeted employer. I did it. Yeah, there was no posting. Fine. I was like, okay, I'm going to be there to help you, whatever. After a couple of, I think I shadowed with them a couple of years ago. This guy goes to CBC, writes it, and he approaches me. He's like, you know what, can I interview you for my article? I was like, oh my God,
you made an impression.
All I did was like, didn't even ask the job. I connected well with him. It's like, can I do the interview? I was like, okay, you never know. So don't think about right now when it comes to networking. When you're laid off, go there, build a relationship. How can I help you? What are you doing? Can I come in? I don't care. Big slow event. You're good at event planning, right, Diana? This is how it works in event planning. Everything happens.
Anything can happen. I love this. I'm gonna add a question here. Is like, some best networking advice here, because you're already talking about this, and I love this, right? Like, to me, like, what I'm just taking away here from it's going back, being eager. It's showing interest and helping them, like adding value. That's what it is. Simply adding value, and they appreciate you, and they're gonna want to help you back as well. So I want to share some networking tips, because it's something I know a big part of a successful career transition, especially if you're pivoting there, is you'll need to network. So I'm going to talk to us my guiding principles. Number one is my ABCs. The ABCs: always be connecting, always be cultivating, and always be curious, right? And really this stems from, when you show interest in others, they're going to feel like you want to get to know them, right? And that's how they're going to open up, and you get to know them on a personal level. And that's how you're going to help each other. And I always like to think of having that service-oriented mindset, right? That you can add value, right? A simple thing. Last year, I talked about this story. Like last year, I was sharing with people that I'm going camping for the first time. I still remember the folks who DM me with like tips on camping, what to pack and things to check out where I was going. I was like, oh my goodness. It's not business or anything, but the fact that they heard it was my first time camping and they want to share with me some advice, I was so grateful for that, right? So it could be so simple like that, and adding value, or recommending, let's say, restaurants. If someone's new to a city or place, recommending new things to do. I've had clients new to Canada where their kids are similar to my kids' age. I would recommend daycares, parks to go to, indoor playgrounds. They're like, oh my God, we need this. Thank you so much. And it's simple things like that they feel more welcome and that they belong here as well, right? So it doesn't have to be crazy work-related stuff, or, right? It doesn't have to be like that, but that's part of building relationship. I've invited clients, like even recently, like to my kids' birthday parties, because their kids is like similar age as my kids. I'm like, okay, like they're new to Canada, come join the birthday party and meet new people. Right? And
You're
that's
so
how you build
lucky. Your clients are all in GTA. I'm like right here. My clients are like, can we meet you? I'm so sorry.
We need an event up north to come see you in Muskoka there. But that's the thing, where relationship building can happen organically. And in these days with LinkedIn as well, is really like send messages, personalized message to people. I'm not a fan personally, like for me, of people who I've never talked to before, that they directly reach out to me and ask for a 20-minute, 30-minute coffee chat, because there's no relationship built yet. I think it's important to it's building up. It's like dating, right? Where you get to know people, whether it's commenting their posts, send them a DM, have a quick chat first, just to get a feel of each other, to build that trust and rapport. Because when you don't have that, it's really hard for people to say yes, to give you their time and expertise. And so I think that's key. It's like, how are you going to really nurture your network, build those relationships so that they can advocate for you? I just had to tell you something. I was at a cottage last week, okay, at a whole week with some of my very, very close friends. And I was listening to their business challenges or work challenges or people that they're hiring. I was able to recommend, a few clients of mine to them because I was listening to their needs. And I was batting for one of these clients because I'm like, yeah, this person can do this, this, and this. And I made an introduction. And so part of my point here is that you need to go out and have these conversations, understand people's challenges and needs in order to identify new opportunities. I would have never thought someone I thought the client working in philanthropy, that they would need someone in nonprofit background, but that's not the case. That she actually values someone who also worked in the public sector as well. So I think what I'm getting to point here is that you got to ask questions to peel the onion, to really understand the needs and opportunities, for either someone will refer you or they'll think about you when an opportunity comes there.
That's exactly what it is. Let the other people advocate for you when you're not there. And that's the key, right? When you influence the influencer, it's very hard for your manager, the hiring manager, to go no, I'm not going to see it. But they would be I felt it too, right? I want what I want, but let me see what candidates do you have. And if they impress me and I'm like, okay, I think the referral was good too, right? We were huge on referral. The job was posted, but we used to get the referral. Hey, if you refer, staff's going to get this bonus on it as well, right? So, but then the people knew who were working there. People knew what kind of employees I'm looking for as well. They would just go here's a resume from one of my cousins. Someone came in, and I had a lot of people. And sometimes what happens is, here's the catch here, right? If you're laid off as well, one of the things that I realize is, people who are already there with the ex-employer, it's hard to actually go back and say, hey, do you have anybody? It's the best thing to do is go and find out who've exited out, who is no longer working there, who are in the same situations. They have more information than the people working in there. They don't want to be connected with you anymore, which is fine. They don't want to share the information, what's going on in the background, because that's their job online as well. It's a confidential as well. You know what I mean? So be very strategic about it. When you're doing networking, you want to go out there and reactivate your existing network where they know you already, and you don't have to sit down for a coffee chat or something. They're like, oh, you want this? Okay, I got your back, right? These are the people you need to go and reactivate, not just random people that you've not even talked to them for years, or do the name dropping. That worked for me. So when I was moving from Toronto to Sudbury, I reached out to the people, I trusted them. I said hey, do you know anyone in Sudbury? These are my targeted company. Do you know anyone? It's no, I don't know, but I talk to this person, and then he's going to actually give you the contact. I kid you not, I didn't even think about it. The guy worked with me. I never even said hi, but the name dropped. I said, he referred me to you. I understand that you have some contacts, and this is what's happening with me. I got laid off, and could you introduce me? Could you point me to the right person? He's like, done. In 5 minutes, when you actually get the referral from the right people, man, no question. I got interview. I got the contact center tour. Yeah. They were on on my radar. I couldn't get anything like that if I didn't do the name dropping. That's why you need to have the name dropping.
Yeah. I just want to point out about the name dropping piece. It does help with credibility, but use it with caution, meaning that if you're going to use the name dropping, make sure you let the person know. I've had people drop my name so many times without letting me know. And then people come back, they're like, do you know this person?
That's a very good strategy. Thanks for covering that. Don't just name drop, but get a buy-in, get a permission. You're right.
We gotta be careful. I've had someone drop my name so many times, and they're like, your name's been going around. And so check in. I definitely just check in. Is it okay if I use your name to get an introduction? Just check in, just for the respect as well. I mean, you never know. I may be able to endorse this person even further, right? If you let me know that you're using my name there. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I want to ask the audience, what are you learning so far? We've covered so many gems. I feel like we had our questions, but we've been going with the flow with
That's okay. I'm
what's
like this.
popping up.
Yeah.
What's popping up? I want to ask the audience, what are you learning so far? We've covered so many tips and advice here. Want to hear from you as we wrap up soon. So Sweta, what are the common career transition mistakes?
I can speak from my experience and a lot of clients I work through, especially okay. I think there's no mistakes. There's a lesson to be learned here. So I think it depends on at what point you got laid off. If you're a 10-year employee, senior career, professionals, your needs might be different. Your strategy might be different than the people who just got laid off because they were new hire. They've been in the industry or whatever it is, right? Newer one, right? So I think the whole foundation needs to be clear, and that was not clear to me, especially when you've done so much. I worked there for 12 years. I managed multiple team. I managed remote team. I managed bilingual team. I managed so many teams later on. I was so confused. I was like, I can do this job. I can do this job. Kid you not, I applied for HR manager role as well. And I'm like, no wonder. I went back. I was like, I was not even the right fit for it. I didn't even see the requirement. Just because, let's say, you're in the leadership role, that doesn't mean that you're fit for any leadership role out there. Okay, just get that right. People think that. And I was one of those until I started self-reflecting myself. And I'm like, what would I do as a hiring manager? Because I've been there as a hiring manager. Like, what, you think that you know it all, but it's so hard to actually even self-evaluate yourself, because you almost have that ego of like, I've hired and fired people. I've interviewed 1,000 people. I know. But then the resume world has changed. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? I got promoted 9 times, but never once I had to submit the resume, right? What I mean? It was based on my reputations, my performance KPIs. So you got to understand what it is out there, what they want, marketing materials in our terms, resume, like everything, LinkedIn profile and everything. So I had to sit down and think about that one targeted role, not 5, I can do it. And this is the problem that people have. I teach that 7 C's of career clarity. And then we have a matrix together to get assignment. And then that becomes like crystal clear. Who are you? The branding, to your point, right? We all talk about it. You need to be so good at branding yourself that when people look at your profile or resume, you got to have them at hello in 10 seconds. It's like content writing. Why would you read that book if the first page is not good, right? This is the problem I had and a lot of people have. When you do it all, you want to be doing this jack of all. So the problem right there is the job search foundation. When you become so clear on what you want, you can write the resume just like that. You can talk about yourself in an interview just like that. But then you got to do the research on it, because even the job descriptions for same title, it's not going to be same. So you gotta talk in employer's language, and that's what I lacked.
Yeah, I love that advice. And I'm going to echo that. Like, one of the common things I do see a lot, and even in my LinkedIn DMs, a lot of times people start with, can you review my resume in LinkedIn? I'm looking for a job. And when I talk to them, like if they hop on a call, is you find they're not really clear on what is it they're going after. So if you update your resume from your perspective of what you believe you have to offer and not think of your target job, your target employer, it's not going to be as effective, right? You're missing the connecting the dots. And this is why we keep talking about clarity and branding, because when you have that, the way you communicate is just much, much, much more powerful there, because you have understanding of what differentiates you. One of the things that I really specialize in helping my clients is what differentiates you. It's not just about the skill and experience, but it's a combination of everything that you've done and who you are and your performance and all that makes you unique and marketable. And that's a piece that's like the next level when you think of your differentiation factors. And one thing I want to talk about, I see a lot, is when it comes to this question around like, why hire you, or why are you the ideal candidate? One of the common, I wouldn't say mistake, but it's just, I guess we're not trained to think this way, is that we're really thinking about like, I have this knowledge of these skills, that experience, therefore I'm a good candidate, right? That's why you should hire me. But if you can take it a step further and really think of it, reframe that question to, what are the benefits of hiring me? What do I really bring to the table there? And really use language like, I can help you with this. I would be an asset in this, or I can help you achieve these goals. Then you're really speaking from the employer's language. And this is where the research comes in. If you really understand the team, the projects, the organization, and all that, you're just going to feel like a stronger match there. And so that's something I really want to encourage people to do, especially like I work with a lot of clients where they're looking to reach that next level, to like a manager level position or to pivot. You have to give them that confidence. If you are just speaking from your own perspective and not theirs, there's going to be a misalignment there. They're not going to see that you understand them. All right. So the bottom line here is show that you understand. Show that you understand.
That's so right. And, coming to that one transitioning piece, take a look at the job description. I bet you no one crafts the same way. As a hiring manager, sometimes you crafted or HR people crafted, you put it all together, right? But the same job descriptions in different company would be different. So example would be when you go like, when hiring manager asks you like, why should I hire you? You should already know the pain they're dealing with it, right? And if they don't, then this is how, like, if you don't know for whatever reason you got an interview call, then I want you to ask you during the conversations as well, when you're talked about, when you're asked about, did you ever feel like, feel the deadline, or did you ever had to manage multiple teams, whatever it is, right? Like, then what you want to do is right after you answer those questions, you're going to say, while we're on the topic, can I please ask you, what are the KPIs that you're struggling with right now? What are the one things that you want to fix it within 60 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Now they're giving you pain now as a hiring manager, right? Now you're going to frame your answer later on why I should hire you on there, because bring the pain, because you're actually wanting the information on that sessions if you don't have the information already from the information interview, right? The next thing is look at the social media complaints. What are people complaining about? So when I was targeting contact center, and I came from the bank, right? Contact center, I literally opened account with the bank industry, like, targeted company. I wanted to be part of it. I called them. I saw how they handled the call. I knew everything. And then I brought that up in an interview. I was like, by the way, I'm a client of yours as well. I went through the onboarding process. You know what? There was the average handling time, which took me 30 minutes. And you know what? My history actually, and I gave them a history, and I can save you that time without compromising the quality, right? Because people think that, when you're putting that call handling time at the bottom, like in the lowest, you're probably going to compromise the quality. But what I'm saying is, yeah, everyone can do it. But you know what? I can do that without compromising the quality, because consistently my quality score for associate would be still at 80%. That was the highest one I've ever done, right? I'm giving you an example of it, right? Now you're talking into that industry lingo, because AHT, average handling time, is the industry lingo. You got to drop that down from the job descriptions. What's a major pain right now? If you're working in the industry right now, like in a contact center, the wait time. Have you called the banking industry right now? There's so much wait time. So how are you going to solve it? If you want to go into the bank, understand the process and drop it down. I can do that because I've done it. That's what it is.
I love it. We're getting nitty gritty into the interview tips now. This is like, for those who are here listening right now, this is interview tips. I love it. Like what you just talked about here is quantify to qualify, right? And also like understand their pain points in order for you to address their pain points of how you can help them solve the problems there. What's more credible is when you can actually quantify, provide that data of how you've been able to really solve that problem, the before and after results, because that's not the fluff, right? When people say like, oh, I'm great with this, or I'm great at this, you want to give the proof. I call it the evidence of support. Right? This is something really big that I learned when I was a recruiter at Google is, avoid the fluff, give the facts. And I want to share this story. This was a story I posted. I think just yesterday here, Sweta, around why it's so important. What you're just saying here is show them what you bring to the table, not just telling them. Instead of just saying, I'm great with this, show them, give them the proof, give them the evidence, tell great stories, show a portfolio. And this is a great example. I had this story yesterday was how my son, it's at sports camp, and he really wanted to climb monkey bars, and they won't allow him for safety reasons. But my son's a climber. And so I try to build a business case. Let's go back, build a business case of why you're the ideal candidate, of how he's been a climber, he's done rock climbing, we've been climbing for years. And I showed some videos of him climbing. That's like the portfolio, right? And they're like, wow, that's amazing. That shouldn't be a problem to get approved. Next day, he got approved. So my point here is, if you are trying to pitch yourself as an ideal candidate, don't just tell them, but show them, because you're going to give them the confidence and it gives you credibility.
And you should be doing that again, like, even though we're going through the interview session. So you should be doing all these homework during the career gap, during the transition stage, right? Not after you get an interview, right? So yes. This is where the layoff happens, and there's going to be gap. There's no like, today there's a layoff and tomorrow you're going to get it. It's going to happen because you don't have updated resume. You don't have a marketing material. You're processing things. This is where I spent a lot of times during my layoff understanding, soul searching, where am I going to be good at, what industry I'm thinking of, right? And I got the information, and when I got the interview, I was like, you know what? There it is, because I've done the homework. And this is how you transition from like doing nothing to actually doing something and make yourself feel like I was doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So to wrap up, what's your final advice for those who are managing their career transition and job search?
You know what? Life happens. Nobody plans it. Like we wake up next day, we might not have that title. But you know what happens is if you know that you're good at something, your brain is something that nobody can take it. I'm going to go back to my famous thing that I always write it. If you're laid off, your title doesn't matter. What matters are your skills that you learn from that. That's a gratitude. You can thank them later on, right? But then now how you bring those skills into the new employer and how do you close the chapter and move on, whether you want to go back or not, it's up to you. Always make sure that you know what you want, the clarity. Nobody's going to. You come to me and you come to Diane and then say, like, you know what, help me find the job, but I don't know what I want. I'm not the one for you. I'm not. I'm going to ask you, you know what do you want? Onus lies on you. And a lot of people think that I can guide you and I can figure out this is what you're good at. Nobody knows you better than yourself. So write it down, the skills, and see where you are a good fit. But then passion is overrated, right? Can you see yourself working on 24/7 and not ever get tired of it? This is where I am right now. This is where I should be because I'm not passionate about everything you do. There's no dream job out there. That's me. I'm saying it. There's no dream job out there. There's going to be aspect of things that day to day that you're going to not love it. You got to learn how to delegate. That's what I'm going through right now, right? But I love what I do. I look forward to Monday. I look forward to these sessions with collaborating with the colleagues, right? Do you love it? Then go for it. Later on, you're going to be like, I was not the right fit.
Yeah, I love that. I really, really love that, right? I would say as add on is like, don't get desperate, right? I find that when you're in the desperate energy, the way you show up is going to reflect that and people can feel that. And this is why it's really part of it is owning your own self-worth and value. I really believe you have what it takes by writing out your accomplishments, taking time to think about what are you really proud of. And I would also think like thinking about what the economy, looking at the external factors right now that are happening, have that honest conversation with yourself and your family. What makes sense? Like what type of change you want to make? Do you need like, let's say a bridge job right now, or you really want to go for like this ideal role where you make big changes? And I always say the bigger change you make, the longer it's going to take. And so you want to ask yourself, do I have that financial runway to do that there? And that's going to help you make a decision, like a sound decision as well. Make what makes sense for you to during times like this there.
Yes, I love the fact about bridge job because a lot of people feel guilty about it. Like I'm qualified, but why am I doing the bridge job? Bills has to be paid. Like my husband got laid off and he was working in IT Fortune company. He worked with me in a factory together as a newcomer in Canada. I put it out there, the story, right? And sometimes what happens is we don't share so much of our journey sometimes, and people think that, oh, they went up by doing just nothing, right? But we've done it all. There's nothing wrong with it. But don't give up on a dream just because you're doing the survival job or bridge job.
Yes.
Like, keep updating it. That's the thing that you can never forget it. You're not there. You need to be there someday.
Do the work, right? Amazing. Oh, thank you so much. This was so fun having you on the show today. We finally got to connect.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like we could talk like over and over. When Diana said to me, like, it's going to be going until 12, I'm like, 12? Really? But look, we are non-stop.
We could talk for another hour. I know that, but I know we need to stop there, and we still have an audience here from LinkedIn. So thank you for those who've been here, for the entire time. And for those who are maybe just tuning in, feel free to watch the replay here. We covered everything from, signs of layoff, how to manage your career transition, how to bounce back from a layoff, how to explain your gap. We talked about networking, best advice, interview advice, all the tips here. So feel free to watch the replay. There will be timestamps added later on. Help us share this, like it as well. Sweta, where can people find you to connect further with you there?
Absolutely. I'm maxed out unfortunately, on LinkedIn already. Feel free to send me a message. I've open message. And if you feel like we're the right fit, you know what, hop in on a call with me. There's the appointment calendar on my feature sections. I'd be more than happy to see if we're the right fit and help you bounce back.
Absolutely. Yes, we have your LinkedIn here. Feel free to follow her, connect with her on LinkedIn, or book a call as well. And if you'd like to connect with me, feel free to send me a DM or go to my website at mymarkability.com to book a consultation call as well. So thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of the summer there.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care. Bye,
Okay,
all.
bye.